I have too many tabs open. And I've also got to start the go live. There we go. Heyo. Heyo. So, anyone know what LDAP is in the first place? Anyone know what LDAP is? I wonder where you read that. Oh yeah, I should also probably pop this link in there as well in case you want to follow along. Not that there's too much there. Yeah, it's a lightweight directory access protocol. Essentially, it's a digital version of a phone book, and it arose out of phone companies of all places. And it's owned now, like 1993, 94, feck, I just got myself owned. And the last one, LDAP version 3, was 1997. It was created, and it was formally codified in 2006. I think the LDAP server that we've had has always been version 3, I think, from going through the old records and whatnot. But we use it because it's a type of database. You store basic account information in it, and technically it is the actual Skynet account. All the other services use LDAP, and I think Eliza and Morris know about that because you were trying to be lazy and have one login for every service, right? Yeah, and it works well when you have multiple people, because then the complexity is worth it for handling multiple people. And this is what it looks like in case the rest of you are wondering. It has basic stuff. Object class tells you what sort of fields you should expect in the database, essentially, or in this entry. Unlike something like, say, SQL or whatnot, you can set basically different columns or entries or lines or whatever you want to call it for anything, even items that are beside each other. That's cursed, but it's possible. So you can see that it has inet org person, IDAP public key, person structural, postx account auxiliary, sk person auxiliary, top, and which is abstract. So there are two structural ones there, person and org person. As far as I remember, these provide stuff like the CN, not sure why, common name I think is why it's CN. You also have SN, which is surname, which is just the surname. There is no first name, there's no FN, I don't know why. What other stuff was in that? The org person also gives us the mail key. And I think that's it from those two. There's a few other fields you can add that are optional and whatnot. PostX account is why it's a core of Skynet itself, because PostX is allows us to use it on Linux machines and whatnot. So you can see that the group ID number is 1001. Everyone has the same group ID number. It's just easier to manage that way. You can technically give people their own group. Everyone has their own group, but management wise, it just turned out to be easier to have everyone's in one big group and then just organize the separate groups. Then we have home directory, which should be fairly simple. This is home/server. UID, which is what I log in with. So for it's ESY. For Milan, it's Milan. For Mars, it's Pine. You know, that sort of thing. It's your Skynet username. ID number. This has to be kind of unique per each person. So there's a nice little script function that I'll show in a little bit that increments it continuously. And it's in the users group, users folder. So you can see it going data center skynet.ie, operating unit users, UID server. If I'm hopping over stuff that you think I should explain, just let me know. The other part is there are two things of note: LDAP public key and SK person. So LDAP public key is what allows you to actually save your SSH key. And the SK person one is the custom ones that I implemented. So you can see it as SK mail, SK created. Those two are required. They're automatically set to be your username at skynet.ie. Then the other ones are SKID. That is optional, but it's the ID number of the person there. Part of the reason why I think it's a good idea to store it is because it can help tracking down the person in years' time. If you come back saying you want to recover your Skynet account, it's just one little bit of information that can point us in the right direction to reassign it to you. We've had, I think it's 5 or so people in the past 2 months just recover owned accounts, and it's really nice. Sorry, I'm sipping tea as well. And then the other one is SK member of. This is what was the problem? Couldn't get member of to be working. Just couldn't get member of. There used to be a whatchamacallit, an overlay for LDAP that gives you member of, and that is complicated, and I just couldn't get it working. Any questions on that while we're still here? No questions? Yeah, and that's great. So it stores data that's used for different services. You can see that most of this information is not useful for most things, but stuff like the email, SK email, and the SKID, as well as the user password, all these are useful for different services, though the password is indirectly. It's a source of truth, and it is possible to use terminal commands to modify on this. I know that there's one person here, I'm not looking at any tree in particular, who would try to use it. But you can have mistakes with that. And so there is a dedicated tune that's better, and it is, oh, I need to actually set it as a link. This works on Windows, Linux, and it's the Apache LDAP Studio. Quite good, actually. I'm using on both my laptop and desktop now, and it works really well. Just to show you it here. So this is my account one here. You can see that there are, yep, I can click in and you can see my SSH public key, and there's other stuff like I can change if I was actually online with it. But oh, I actually am. So if I wanted to be never golden again, I could change my name to bronze, and it would change it. If you're to do this via command line, a lot harder to do so. The one downside, to access the LDAP when you're not on campus, you need to use ITD's VPN. And for that, there's only 3 people at the current time whitelisted for it. Myself, Owen, and Evan. Not Evan Leo's lad, but Evan the advisor. You've probably seen him pop up a few times in some of the Skynet chats. Lovely guy. So let's go back here. Do I have anything? Oh yes, just that's the end of the rough overview of LDAP. Time to delve into 2 aspects of it then. You shut up. So, where am I going for this? Server, yes. Because other tabs. So, the LDAP file in the config is a fucking pain in the ass. There's no other ways about it. So, the 2 of you who've dealt with LDAP before know how pain in the ass it is. So basically the settings is here. There's not much about it. They're the common schemas. Schema is the layout essentially that we need to have imported in to make things work. Then we've got the 2 kind of semi-custom ones here, the OpenSSH one and the SK member. Probably better question is, do you want me to go through this? Because it's detailed. Yay, nay, boo, moo. Okay. So, hopefully the connection stays good. So, one thing here, if you look at my user password, it's SSHA512. That is one of the better types of encryption. It's sorted and hashed, and it's done. I don't know encryption, I just know how to implement it. And that is set by this setting here. ONC password hash SSHA 512. That's what sets that. If you notice, the SK created for mine is 2012. However, a lot of the really old ones were done in 2004, and they were all done at the same time. Because they were being imported in from an older implementation of LDAP. I think at that time they had a massive server crash as well and lost a pile of data, but only recovered some. Yeah, Skynet seems to be fairly cyclical in that it goes from boom to bust to boom to bust to boom to bust, resurrecting each time. Jesus. Yeah. So in contrast, oh wait, SK created. Wait, why? Why was it created then? Never mind, TSOC. Is that TSOC? Yes, we have UN TSOC. So TSOC has had a Skynet account of all things for the past decade, 2 decades even. Wait, yeah, 2004. And you can see that their one is an SSHA one, so not the 512 at all. Oh yeah, that's actually the fun side note, is that you know how Worms is now a separate entity? Well, it used to be that Skynet used to host all the websites for clubs and societies, which is why there are so many society accounts in our LDAP. They can still use them if they wanted, but we haven't kind of notified of them that. So that's, yeah. Uh, I mean, that's the best way to have it, right? So, anyways, so the database essentially is hierarchical. I keep mispronouncing that. So it follows a hierarchy, and so the settings has the children attribute, which has these, uh, which itself has a children's attribute, and it can continue down. Um, so we got to here. So this is setting up the database essentially. This segment here, it has a dynamic list, member of, stuff like that. I'll be hopping around way too much. This is where the data lives for the entire database, var lib open LDAP data. And that will be the backup path when we get around to it. Do I actually have the backup code in here? Ah, yeah, need to back up that as well. No, I don't have the backup set up on that. Yeah, backup is one thing that we do need to get to fast enough. Things won't break that fast, but it's better to be cautious. And the root password is being passed in here. And that's the root user, and that has full access to everything. ONC access is basically who can edit what fields, and so user password, it basically means that the person themselves can write it and anyone else can authenticate against it. So the password, even in its hashed form, never leaves the open LDAP server. What happens is that other services send a request to the server to check, is this password correct? And the server will say back yay or nay. As far as I know, that's partly because it has the sort and the hashing algorithm on it, so it just manages that. There are fields where the user is allowed to write, such as mail, public key, full name, and surname. Ignore the SK Discord, that is no longer happening. I used to have it so that you'd be able to store your Discord username in the LDAP, and that would go to the bot kind of magically, but that proved to be far too much hassle to deal with. So no, that ended up being too much of a pain in the ass. At that point, no idea. Well, remember that the person was able to write it however they wished. Like, they can write it and change it themselves. Just be aware, when you interact with the LDAP as a user, you don't directly interact with it because LDAP is cursed, and I do not want to manually deal with LDAP stuff, which is where the next project in a little bit comes into focus. Anything else of note here? Oh yeah, the overlay stuff. Couldn't really get this to work 100% right, but it was where that comes in is, where did I put this? So the dynamic list and the member of, where that comes in is in the group section here. You have different, you can set people as members of the group, and it's slightly different for the PostX group, which is for the Linux servers, and the other group, which is for everything else. Have to have both, sadly, but it works out. So for the regular one, it's a member and it's a UID. It's the full path to the person. So you can see mine there is UID equals server, OU equals users, DC equals server, DC equals IE. But the Linux one is just the UID. But the advantage of the PostX group is it has the GID number, so the group ID number. The GID basically says what permissions you are allowed to access as part of the group. I'm not really explaining that well. You can see that the users one has got 34 people in it so far, which is not that high. I would have expected more, but that first day with the Skynet stuff I did feck up, and yeah. So anyway, so that is the server NIX, and it imports the SK OpenSSH one, which we use for the SSH key, and then the other one is the SK member of, which has all the other fions that we use. Some of the fions are required. They have the must, some are optional, and so they have the may. You can see them there. There is technically email and disk quota. I think only the email one is actually enforced. The disk one is just couldn't get it to work either. Quotas are difficult as well. So that's a server, but how does every other server know how to use that data? That's where having a client comes in. So nothing really up there. No, so when people log in, their home directory is created. So you see, you noticed, and Milan as well, you noticed a few days ago that you could see the dot to go up a level from your home directory and see the home deals of everyone else. That's why you were seeing all the people who had actually logged into the server, because their home directories were created then. You can see that password authentication is turned off. This is because people have had very poor passwords in the past, and SSH key is just the way to go. Otherwise you're entering the password every single time you log in, and that's not ideal. So I'm also having dinner at the current time, so that's not great. SSD is, oh fuck, what's the name of it? SSD, System Security Services Daemon. It's basically the service that runs, that uses the LDAP. You can see that the ID provider is LDAP, and that's where your username comes from. Username and user ID. So my username is server, that's where that comes from. You can also say that the auth provider comes from LDAP as well. So when I log in, the SSH key is sent off to the LDAP and queried, I think. Not exactly sure about the workflow anymore. I think I had it in my mind earlier. It needs to log into the LDAP, so it knows where the LDAP is. It's interesting enough, it's the exact same link that you use for the accounts, but it's just a different port. Then it searches the user base, and there's an interesting thing with this in that there are only two groups that are allowed. There's one group that's allowed on every server, and if I go up here to here, yeah, So one group that's always allowed is Skynet admins. So that would be Owen, myself, and Evan. And then other groups can be added as well. So you can see that the groups, wait, wrong area. So yeah, the default group is Skynet admins Linux. And that gets passed into functions and whatnot, and it's made sure that it's there and whatnot. Aside from that, and then on other servers like the Skynet users, if I hop here, where was it? Oh, probably should actually include it in that. But Skynet then. So in the Skynet users, where is it? I maybe slightly lose my mind now. Oh yes, here. So the groups for Skynet, the Skynet server, is users and admins. That's an override. That is basically what allows you as a Skynet user to log into the Skynet server, because you're part of that Linux group. I'm gonna hop back to a client here. So because you're in that group, you can go there. And the folks allowed sudo are the admins. Might be looking to see if I can create another. I'm not quite sure exactly how to give trainees access to it. Might also, on a side note here, looking to set it up 1 or 2 test VMs that you can just modify as you please. That may be the cleanest way forward. Like for yourself, for Liza, and anyone else who wants to use a server almost completely set up. Anything else? Oh yeah, the member of is SK member of, and yeah, that's it. There's not much else in that part of it. So that is the server, which has all the data, and the client. That's okay with folks, or do you want me to go into more depth in any part of it? Anything that you're not getting? I'm going to take silence as, yeah, we got on that and we're better than you, Brendan, because you probably are. What? Hey, it's not rude if it's the truth, right? Yeah. So, then the next part. So, you folks probably have a rough idea now of how pain in the fucking ass it is to deal with LDAP. The fact that I told you about a GUI way to interface with it, the Apache Directory Studio, instead of using the command arguments. Yeah, LDAP is old, really fucking old, and it shows. And so, on accounts that's gonna be, what that interacts with is an API server, a small little web server that's just running and serving requests. And then that is what interacts with the LDAP on our behalf. So it's Rust. You know it's going to be Rust because it's me. You should know that by now. Everything leads to crabs. So currently, the LDAP, this server has a few endpoints. One is update, where you can update your information. Then there are the new users. So you know how you signed up, you entered your email and you got an email to verify who you were, and then you had to enter your username and password, blah blah blah. Well, the email is the first part of the interaction, and the new account deals with the second part. And then there's a few options to recover your password, your username, and to prove it's you via an SSH key. I don't think the front end actually shows this yet, but it's technically there. How much detail do you want me to go into for this? Because this is code, a lot of code. uh, 30 years. So, I am going to go. What's in? Oh yes. So the README has got a few interesting things in it. It outlines. I can just going to turn it on front screen. So it outlines what is in, what you need to send to get what response. Ooh, why did I get pinned? Oh, ooh, that's a good picture. No, Leo just posted a picture for the poster. Damn, that looks good. Oh, your piece of blood. Oh, is Leo even old enough to know about that? Oh, damn. So, yeah, I tried to have on the endpoints and responses here as well as what you send it. And that's all on the GitLab if you want to take a look at it in more detail. The interesting thing for us, kind of how to implement it, is the flake.nix. So you know that the NixOS itself has a flake.nix, right? Well, almost all the imports for it also have the flake.nixes, and these describe how you use them essentially. So this one here is expecting a few environmental configurations, env vars, no configurations, fake. These also get passed in the user's admin committee lifetime banned and restricted. There's only a few lifetime. I'm not sure how many I've actually got. That's the honorary member for that note. It's not the one that you could in the past buy a lifetime membership. That's no longer the case. They're all gone now for years. Then I've got this little function here to set up the service's name, and then it's systemd. So, Mars, have you got any opinion on systemd? Anyone else here? Maybe, but it works so fucking well. But it works. Yeah. But this one works really well. So, one thing that we do here is we have, where is it? So we have one service that runs the core config, the core server. This is the main file that I showed you here that has all these endpoints. That is this service here, the highlighted section. That's probably hard to read when let's see. There we go, that zoomed in a bit. So you set the username, restart always, and you set the environmental variables as well, and those. And then secondly to that are the timer scripts. So systemd, for all its flaws, has a lot of nice features with it. One is that it can replace cron to a degree, and you can run scripts as a service on a timer, and that's what almost all this configuration here is for. And yes, it is probably a bit bloated, but it works really well if you use it not in a cursed way, and that is probably hard to do. So the scripts in question are the update data, which runs every 15 minutes, and the update groups, which runs every 8 hours. Update data is basically, oh feck, I need to go into that now as well. The main problem with the LDAP is that it goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. In the beginning, there was the Big Bang. And then, some people say that was a very bad idea. It angered a lot of people. So, we have onion worms. Oh, feck, no, feck, close. Wait, did not mean to show that. Onion worms, there's a way to export data in a CSV. It is not a good way. You can see there how easy it is to accidentally expose it by accident. We are moving away from it. But the update data checks that file every 15 minutes to see if there's any changes or updates. So at the current time, all I have to do to update data is download the file from Worms, plonk it in the drive, not in the drive, in the folder where the LDAP, where this service lives, and it will automatically update itself. I don't need to do anything else. And then every 8 hours the groups are updated. These are separate binaries that are compiled out. They are separate from the main one. I am hopping here. So in the Rust config, the main binary is Skynet on that backend, and the other ones are update data.exe if you're on Windows, and update groups. Yeah, you can actually see them here. The exe, update groups, update data, and app server. Backend, that's the. And this, you can see, imports, where is it? LDAP 3, which is a library that someone else created, so the rest of us can save our sanity when it comes to LDAP. Mostly. The account new is the workflow when someone signs up. Account recover is the workflow when someone wants to recover their account. It should be very good now because we are using non-Skynet emails. So, okay, let me go back to the picture. Where is it? My own one. So recover with the recovering your password now sends a mail to this address here, the mail address. Under Skynet users, their mail address is their Skynet username. So that is kind of like a chicken and egg. To get access to their mail, they need to be able to log into their mail. Um, so yeah, so if I go into a new sign up one, and there's a lot of stuff here. If the email ends in Skynet.ie, ignore it. We do not accept Skynet.ie emails as a contact email anymore because it causes so much trouble. Yeah. Um, and it uses the preferred contact email from WOMS now. So if you forget your password, it will send an email to whatever you've got set on WOMS. Oh, well, yeah, basically. It's a bit more complicated than that at the current time, but it will be exactly that in the future. We're getting an API to access the WOMS data. A few of the folks here sat in on that meeting. More or less anyway, I'm not sure about anyone else, but basically we met the GDPR guy, and because we have reduced the amount of data that we use and access, it's good. I'm hopping around and probably too much. So we covered, there's a lot of stuff in that, a lot of sending in emails, and update is where you just update your account. Remember those fields I pointed out before that a user can update themselves? Yeah, it was the mail, public key, CN, so these ones. Yeah, it's those that you can actually update on the account that's connected. So, questions? Any? I've covered a lot here. Oh yeah, the other part is the account data is stored in a SQLite database here. This is partly so that we can get the next highest ID number for new people signing up. I think I'm going to go through the SQLite stuff late in another session maybe. I'm not sure if that could even be a fun session. It would be pretty short, I think. But questions? So, I'm gonna take silence as an affirmative, but who here likes pineapple on pizza? Oh damn, a lot of people like pineapple on pizza. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Yeah, probably. Um, want me to end up here? Yeah, I know, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm gonna end the